I'm feeling low.
Well, hey there, Lemonheads, and welcome back to the Lemonade Stand, or welcome if you are new. My name is Briannah. I'm a certified personal trainer, a big, huge biology nerd, and a registered dietitian to be. Today we're going to talk about a very controversial topic. Briannah, that's me, and her terrible, horrible, no good, fat phobia. This video is prompted by multiple different interactions I've had with fat activists. They have bombarded me, tagged me in things, and a frequent thing I've seen across these interactions is I should change my career aspirations as a bariatric dietitian, because in being a bariatric dietitian, I will be contributing to weight stigma, weight bias, and fat phobia. Before we proceed, if you love science-based health, wellness, and fitness education with some lulz and some dry sarcasm along the way, hit that subscribe button and join the Lemonade Stand. I would sure love to have you here. Without anything further, let's make lemonade. But I'm drinking coffee though. So I guess I'll start with some background. I mentioned before that this video was being prompted by multiple different interactions I had with people. But the weird thing is, I feel like these interactions all happen in such a short time frame that they can't possibly be a coincidence. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't really know. I guess it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. One of these people is, I guess they're a fat activist. They deleted my comment when I attempted to defend myself after I was called out by name on this post, which I'll read in a minute. And then they blocked me from their account. I was responding on the comment thread of somebody who I have no idea who this person is, and they tagged me in this post. And they tagged me to basically say that I should change my career aspirations. And they said that they hope that I choose to do something better with my dietetics degree or something like that. I'll read it. I'm sure most of you are aware, but I'll say it again because it's very relevant for this video. I am currently working toward my master's degree, taking my sweet ass time in human nutrition and dietetics. I am working toward becoming a registered dietitian, and I want to specialize in bariatric care. I want to work with obese populations and people who are pre and post weight loss surgery, considering weight loss surgery, things like that. I also want to, at some point down the line, become a certified diabetes educator because I'm very interested in learning more and just studying the pathology of diabetes more deeply. My interest in the science of weight loss and weight science and stuff kind of comes from my own experience from myself and from my family. I've personally never been obese before. I've been slightly overweight in terms of adiposity, but it really didn't impact my my metabolic or physiological health that much. I say that much because I did get to a point where I felt that it was affecting my physical health a teeny tiny bit, in really subtle things. For example, when I was heavier, I had a more difficult time on the Stairmaster and doing squats. And then, after I lost a few pounds, those things got easier. But as far as my overall health and physiological health, metabolic health, no, I don't believe it affected my health in that way. The journey was fascinating for me because part of it was actually gaining the weight, which actually came from my time in competitive bodybuilding when I used to do bikini competitions. And then I have friends and family who deal with obesity and morbid obesity who don't desire to be the size that they are. I've just watched them try crash diet after crash diet after crash diet, only to lose weight, gain it back, try another crash diet, and then the cycle just keeps on repeating itself. I see them as victims. They were all taken advantage of by the diet industry, by the weight loss industry. Their desperation to lose weight and their insecurity with their body is unfortunately fantastic for the diet industry because people in that vulnerable state are very easy to exploit. Because of social media, diet culture thrives more than ever. Misinformation gets pumped into Instagram at just astronomical rates. More and more people are falling prey to the industry and just don't even realize it. It makes me feel a lot of things, but primarily it makes me sad and it makes me angry too. I want to pursue a nutrition career in the bariatric and weight loss space because I want to spread the message to as many people as I can that if you want to lose weight, first of all, that's okay. Second of all, you do not need this junk. You don't need detox teas. You don't need a 21-day fix. You don't need a 4-week gut protocol. You don't need to fast day in and day out. You don't need the 75 hard. And you don't have to scrutinize your efforts and your body to the point that it damages your mental health. There is a way to do it that is sustainable and is actually okay and will actually still leave you feeling good about yourself. I think the science and psychology of weight loss is very fascinating. We're so enamored with it as a culture, but at the same time, nobody likes to talk about it because it's such a sensitive topic Yet here we are. Anyway, I'm going to start by discussing the exact interactions I had with the people who prompted this video. But the first one was a YouTube video from a little over a month ago. Yeah, back in March, I think, in which I reacted to Autumn Calabrese's Instagram, like IGTV, IG Live, whatever it was. She was responding to haters or something like that. Reacting to Autumn is mentally exhausting for me. But she is a figure that says a lot, that warrants a debunking and clarification. So yeah, thank you for watching that video. So here's the entire exchange. Also, by the way, these things are posted publicly. I will not be covering anybody's names. I'm not concealing anything. This comment thread is, as far as I know, still under that video. And yeah, it's posted publicly on my channel, so I'm not hiding anything. So this person named Amy Dost said, quote, "I am small, my family is small, we're just built that way," end quote. That right there, Autumn, in insidious diet culture. People are built differently, and diet and exercise has extremely little effect on someone's body size. I responded and said, "Interesting take. How do you figure diet and exercise have, quote, extremely little effect," end quote, on body size? People change their bodies all the time through manipulating their energy intake and adjusting their physical activity. For example, many professional bodybuilders look the way they look because of weight training, and weight-bearing exercise has that impact on a lot of humans, changing your body size and proportions because of the increased muscle mass. Bariatric dietitians, my career aspiration, work with overweight and obese patients to help them learn how to modify their eating habits to be more conducive to fat loss pre-surgery and to help them continue to lose body fat after surgery, thereby changing their body size. Obviously, genetics play a role, but it's not the end-all be-all. As is said in the study of nutrigenomics, DNA is not your destiny. I don't know if that's like a saying across the board, but when I was learning about nutrigenomics in school, that professor, she pounded that into our heads. So Amy responded and said, "Trying to find a source to an article specific about this, and will come back when I have. I used to have some bookmarked, but had to factory reset my phone recently. But diets and intentional weight loss have been proven to cause weight gain in the long term, actually, which has been a commonly known fact in the scientific community since the 1960s. For 95 to 98% of people, all the weight loss is regained within 2 to 5 years. And it's the up and down of weight cycling that is so much more harmful to health than just living in a larger body, if that's where your body is meant to be. Genetics are by far the most significant factor in someone's body size, and weight bias and diet culture telling people that weight is a matter of willpower and is known to cause actual harm. Weight stigma is a proven factor of poor health outcomes far more than higher weights are. The poor health outcomes with higher weights are associated and correlated, not a cause. Weight stigma itself keeps people from going to the doctor because they're afraid of being shamed or have had really traumatic experiences there. So then when they go into the doctor, their disease is farther along. Whereas a person in the smaller body likely would have gone in sooner, and often things get ignored and people are told to lose weight when they went in for something totally unrelated. It's all very complicated, but weight and body size is mostly genetics, not choices and willpower. Sure, maybe diets and overexercise, keep in mind that she said overexercise, can cause body changes in the short term, but at what cost? At the cost of mental health, social isolation, and furthering weight stigma in our society, and in individual people, access to food, chronic stress, sleep, work, history of illness, current illness. There are so many things that affect someone's body size far more than what they are eating or not eating, and how often they engage in formal exercise. My response: I don't think it's complicated at all. It makes sense to me, and I'm familiar with all of those issues, especially weight bias at the doctor's office, but that wasn't my initial question. However, I think you just proved yourself wrong, albeit perhaps unintentionally. You just said, quote, "Sure, maybe diet and over-exercise can cause body changes," end quote. So you recognize that body size and weight can largely be changed via diet and exercise, but it doesn't have to be extreme, and it shouldn't be. I think the issue is the method people are choosing to do this. For example, you said, quote, "over," end quote, exercise. Physical activity is recommended for everyone to maintain overall good health. Exercising to the point of sickness, injury, or physical exhaustion is not healthy and not necessary. Doing crash diets like the 4-week gut protocol, 21-day fix, cleanses, and detox teas are not necessary. These things are unhealthy and can lead to eating disorders, damage metabolism over time, and ultimately lead to weight regain because they're not sustainable. Perhaps you disagree with this, but I don't believe intentional weight loss is diet culture. Sustainable weight loss is possible without having to suffer social isolation and mental health damage. That's the difference between diet and lifestyle. And unfortunately, most people don't know how to go about losing body fat and instead choose quick fixes and crash diets, ultimately regaining weight and damaging their health in the long run. As an aspiring bariatric RD, I acknowledge the poor health outcomes that come from chronic crash dieting, weight bias, and etc. And I also acknowledge that being at an extreme weight, big or small, is not a healthy state for most. It will be my job to educate people on how to navigate these issues to help them achieve their best health. Genetic influence over weight varies massively from person to person. We can't just say it's mostly genetics for everyone because that's not true. It varies widely for all of us. Genetics load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. DNA is not your destiny. Her response. Appreciate your response. I didn't prove myself wrong. I said diet and exercise can change your body in the short term, but in the long term, the weight is regained, typically within 2 to 5 years, by 95 to 98% of people, and this has been proven in many studies. And 2/3 of those people experience more weight gain than the initial weight that they lost. In any other case, outside of shrinking the bodies of fat people, nobody would recommend or follow something that was known to have a 95% failure rate. It's sad. And this happens after bariatric surgery too. So if that's what you mean by what you aspire to support, like gastric sleeves and other related surgeries, I really hope you change your mind on how you want to use the gift that is a dietetics degree in the world. The world doesn't need more weight bias and fat phobia in surgery to lessen how much a human can eat. And yes, we do disagree on what diet culture is. I was curious about Autumn's rant, and that's why I watched the video. I fully agree that everything she said is basically everything she stands for is ridiculous and harmful. I hope someday she leaves Beachbody and finds healing for herself, and how asinine and outrageous to say she studies more than someone who goes to university to work in this field. Definitely. At risk of you reading it and making a video about it, I highly recommend Christy Harrison's book, Anti-Diet, Reclaim Your Time, Money, Well-Being, and Happiness. It's very well researched and indexed and cited, and will link to scientific studies you can read yourself. Heart emoji. I said, I'm sorry you have such a negative perception of weight loss, but whatever personal biases you have surrounding the topic doesn't change the facts. There are negative health implications to being at an extreme body size, big or small, and it's important for people to understand how to manage their health through their diet. I intend to use my dietetics knowledge to do that. It's not, quote, fat-phobic, end quote, to help a morbidly obese person reduce their body size to help them live longer and improve their health. Telling someone in a poor health state due to their diet that they don't need to change is not helpful. It's actually quite harmful. I also believe in not undermining body autonomy. If someone of sound mind wishes to pursue weight loss surgery, plastic surgery, or get a ton of tattoos, it's really not anyone's place to discourage them or degrade and demean them by calling them fat-phobic for it. People are allowed to do as they wish with their bodies, and a lot of people don't like being extremely overweight, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm familiar with Christy Harrison. I'm not a fan of her work and how she presents herself on social media. I'm not interested in supporting her. Amy responded, and I'm sorry you have such a negative perception of fat people. There is a scientific data behind what I've been saying to you, and you seem to just dismiss it. Take care. Negative perception of fat people? Have you guys seen Alpha? I did a live stream a while ago, and one of you called Alpha, I think you said royal thickness, and I just love that. I've been calling her that because she is my little thick hippo. Anyway, I don't have a negative perception of fat people. It's a negative perception of fat people because I want to work in bariatric care. I just felt like that was such a weird thing to say. Anyway, so that was the first interaction, and I'll show you the second one right now. It was much shorter. Basically, I was completely randomly tagged in this post. I don't know the person who tagged me. I don't think I've ever interacted with them before, but I just found it very interesting that they took the time not only to mention me by name, but also proceed to basically bash my future career goals by saying they hope I do something better with my dietetics degree. I'm gonna read the initial post, like the actual post that was posted, and then like the caption. So somebody named Reagan Chastain said, idea for bariatric surgeons, quit. Instead of mutilating the digestive systems of fat people to take them from a fully functioning state to a permanent disease state, dedicate your knowledge of fat bodies to giving fat people surgeries we actually need. And in their caption, they wrote, last year after speaking at an online medical conference, I got an email from a bariatric weight loss surgeon who gave me permission to share his story anonymously. After years of seeing what he termed, quote, horrendous outcomes, end quote, and, quote, ruined lives, end quote, he had decided that he just couldn't do it anymore. He emailed to me that he shares my deep anger that so many fat people are denied surgery that they need under the guise that they are, quote unquote, unsafe at their size, but then referred to weight loss surgeries, and that he shares my frustration that fat people trying to access almost any other type of care can expect to face barriers and a lack of accommodation. But when we're signing up to risk our lives and quality of life to be thin, suddenly the sometime exact same facilities know where to buy armless chairs, 6X gowns, and extra large blood pressure cuffs. He has left weight loss surgery behind and is not looking to ways that looking to ways that he can use his knowledge of working with fat bodies to help patients get the surgeries they actually need. So if you're currently making your living surgically transitioning fat people's perfectly healthy digestive systems into a diseased state, often ruining their quality of life or killing them, you know that there are other options. You can use your knowledge of fat bodies to promote actual health instead of creating disease. Image text, idea for bariatric surgeons quit. Instead of mutilating the digestive systems of fat people to take them from a fully functioning state to a permanent disease state, dedicate your knowledge of fat bodies to giving fat people surgeries we actually need. So that was the original post, which is just, I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute, but this is, I mean, a lot of this is just, it felt very fear-mongery to me. But let me read. So this is the comment that I was tagged in. This person, again, who I've never interacted before with, to my knowledge anyway. Maybe I have somewhere else and I just didn't know it was them. I don't know. But to my knowledge, I've never interacted with them before. They specifically tagged me and said, "At Briannah Joel, I hope you use your dietetics degree to do something better than supporting bariatric surgery patients and the, quote, war on obesity," end quote. And then my response, "I'm not sure why I'm tagged in this. You don't appear to even follow me, so I'm not sure how many videos you've watched of mine. Hopefully you haven't established your opinion about me from one sentence I spoke from one video." People tend to do that. Bariatric surgery isn't for everyone, the exact same way a breast augmentation or a nose job isn't for everyone. If someone obese or morbidly obese has been to a medical professional for a full checkup and it has been determined that a large amount of weight loss is necessary to improve their life, and they can have weight loss surgery, then that's their choice for their body and their health. Certain weight loss surgery procedures are actually considered safer than some cosmetic procedures. Weight loss surgery does not cause a quote-unquote disease state. This is just false. As with any elective surgery, there's plenty of potential side effects, and people should be aware of them before they choose weight loss surgery. There's statistical data that demonstrates that most weight loss surgery patients improve their health following surgery. You know nothing about why I'm pursuing the path I am. I have obesity in my family and have seen firsthand how it impacts people's health and lifestyles. I also got tired of watching my family get taken advantage of by diet culture by having their insecurity and desire for weight loss exploited. I will not be changing my career path. Lastly, discouraging people from weight loss because of your own biases undermines bodily autonomy. Would you tell someone not to get a tattoo because you don't like tattoos? Would you tell someone they shouldn't dye their hair a certain color because you don't like it? I hope not. The best thing we can do is share unbiased and evidence-based information to help people make informed decisions. I am only commenting on this because I feel I've been called out. I also don't appreciate the shade to my future career path. Thanks. Lemon emoji. Yeah, so that was my response. This post is obviously extremely biased. The person that posted it, I guess they have a website called danceswithfat.org. So I assume that they're a fat activist or something like that, which, you know, I honestly, do you. I think that's perfectly fine. My issue comes with you're spreading inaccurate information to share your rhetoric. What did they say? They said weight loss surgery puts people in a diseased state, often ruining their quality of life or killing them. That's not true. Weight loss surgery actually has a very low mortality rate. I think it's around like 1% or less. I have to check recent statistics, but it has a very low mortality rate. In this article, data was collected from almost 60,000 bariatric patients from the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery Bariatric Centers of Excellence database, and it was determined that the mortality rate within 30 days of surgery is 0.13%, which is actually significantly less than hip replacement and gallbladder surgery, according to their data. In this meta-analysis published in 2021, it determined that the perioperative mortality rate for bariatric surgery was overall 0.08%. I said overall because it collected data from multiple different types of bariatric surgery, including sleeve gastrectomy and Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. This meta-analysis concluded that bariatric surgery is safe and has low perioperative mortality rates. And also, perioperative means during the time of surgery, so basically from like walking into the facility to being under the knife to waking up from surgery and going home. Further, there are multiple studies across several years and many different publications that indicate that bariatric surgery overall decreases overall mortality among severely obese populations because it reduces risk for comorbidities such as heart disease and diabetes. These are just a couple that I found on the internet, and I will link all of these below. So all of this is not to say that bariatric surgery is 100% safe and right for everyone, because it's not. There are risks associated with bariatric surgery. Complications Complications can include surgery complications such as sepsis or blood clotting. And then there's longer term things to consider. For example, in Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery, patients may develop a B12 deficiency because of the portion of the stomach that's removed is the main portion that's responsible for B12 absorption. So people with Roux-en-Y gastric surgery very often have to supplement B12. As with any surgery, there are risks, and in order to make the best decision for your well-being, it's important that you know and understand the risks, even if they're very small. To completely ignore all of the risks is irresponsible and really not in your best interest, but to refrain from getting a surgery that could potentially add years to your life and improve your quality of life because of the risks, being that there's a very low chance they could happen, is also doing your health a disservice. I don't think bariatric surgery is good or bad. I think it depends on your body, your situation, your health status, and that you speak directly with your healthcare provider to give you all of the unbiased facts. Overall, weight loss surgery has quite a low mortality rate. So to say that it's often killing people, that's the word they use, often killing people, that's just false. It has a very low mortality rate. Obviously, yes, there's risks with weight loss surgery. Again, it's a surgery. There are risks, and it's important that people know and understand those risks before they make that decision. But generally, people who have undergone weight loss surgery, in most people, a reduction in weight usually follows. And not only that, but they improve certain biomarkers like lower cholesterol, lower blood glucose levels, and in some instances, even reversing type 2 diabetes. Anyway, so to finish this out, the page owner deleted my comment, blocked me, and left this comment. Thread moderated. This is a fat liberation space, medicalization and pathologization. I think they meant pathologization. Pathologization of fat bodies is not tolerated. Yes, the MLM Hunbot strategy. Oh, you disagree with me and are presenting facts. Blocked. So again, that second one was much shorter interaction, but I just found it too coincidental that it happened shortly after the first one. So the first person highlighted a bunch of really important topics in this space that I definitely want to talk about, especially since they said I dismissed the scientific data that they presented. So let's talk about it. So the first thing I want to bring up is something that this person mentioned. They said, quote, "Sure, maybe diets and over-exercise can cause body changes in the short term, but at what cost?" End quote. Personally, I think this is exactly the issue. A lot of people want to lose weight, but unfortunately, a lot of those same people think that they have to do these extreme methods, dieting and over-exercising. The diet, which unfortunately is usually a crash diet that they just heard about on social media, but that's not the answer. Dieting is not the answer. Over-exercising is not the answer. I just found it really interesting that this person specifically said over-exercising. I am making assumptions about this person, but that statement kind of says to me that they maybe had in the past a negative experience when trying to pursue intentional weight loss, and they maybe developed some unhealthy habits that included over-exercising. Newsflash, you should not be over-exercising to lose weight. It's unnecessary, harmful to your health, and just not sustainable. I have been consistently losing body fat over the last few months. I train 5 days a week, which include weight training sessions and cardio sessions. In my cardio sessions, I like to increase the intensity, and I like to do like intervals or something, whether that be sprints on the bike, the treadmill, or the Stairmaster. And on the weekends, I exercise. My favorite form of exercise on the weekends is something that's a little bit more relaxed, but like something that lasts longer. So for example, I love to go, I love a good long walk around Lady Bird Lake. I live in Austin. Or I like to find a nice hike to do. I've been weight training consistently for 10 years now, maybe a little more than that, and my body has changed quite a bit. I'm stronger, I have more muscle mass, and I stay consistent because I enjoy it. And that's important too. When you find something you enjoy, you're more likely to keep at it. You should not be over-exercising to lose weight, or even if weight loss isn't your goal, you still shouldn't be over-exercising. If I ever encountered a client or a patient or something with that attitude that they have to over-exercise in order to lose weight, I would be highly concerned. I say that and it sounds very surprising and appalling to me, but then I'm filming this, I think the week after that Jillian Michaels video I put up. I was reacting to her saying how to get flat abs fast. In the topic of physical fitness, she basically was encouraging, I don't know if I want to say over-exercise, but she was basically encouraging super intense exercise, minimal rest, kicking your ass, things like that.
What fitness techniques are going to burn more fat? Well, HIIT training and strength training. And strength training done in a metabolic fashion. So you're not going to do a set of pull downs and then sit there and twiddle your thumbs. You're going to move your ass. So it's pull downs, squats, push-ups, lunges, you keep it moving. If ever you've done any of my workouts, you see I keep it moving. And these high intensity workouts and high intensity training techniques are just more metabolic. They burn more body fat.
This is a really black and white way of thinking. Like, you have the Jillian Michaels and the Autumn Calabrese on this end, and then you have people like these people who I encounter with on this end of the scale who are like, over-exercising is bad and intentional weight loss is bad. Why can't we meet in the middle? You should exercise because it's healthy for you. Physical activity does a body good. If you are capable, if you have the access, if you have the ability, generally physical activity is seen as good. The CDC guidelines even recommend physical activity for everybody. It's good for you. And physical activity can be something as simple as walking. You do not have to get in the gym and train like Jillian Michaels or Autumn Calabrese. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. Especially if weight loss is your goal, it's important to find something sustainable that will not only help you get to your goals, but that you enjoy and that you'll want to continue even after you achieve that goal. The next thing I want to chat about is, in my opinion, really important, and I don't think we can have the discussion about weight like without this. Let's talk about weight bias and weight stigma. What is weight bias? According to obesityaction.org, weight bias is negative attitudes, beliefs, judgments, stereotypes, and discriminatory acts aimed at individuals simply because of their weight. And weight stigma, according to worldobesity.org, weight stigma refers to the discriminatory acts and ideologies targeted towards individuals because of their weight and size. Weight stigma is a result of weight bias. So weight stigma and weight bias obviously can occur in multiple settings, but for the conversation on my channel today, we're going to narrow it down to healthcare, because weight bias is actually very common in the healthcare industry, and also I feel that's the industry where it's most applicable. In the healthcare setting, weight bias basically be summed up as an experience that a lot of overweight, obese, morbidly obese individuals have faced. You go to the doctor because your elbow hurts, and then you leave the doctor thinking that you need to lose 100 pounds and it'll fix your elbow magically. This is likely because without running any tests, without asking more detailed questions, the doctor took one look at you, saw you were fat, and assumed that the problem is your weight. Dusted off their hands and just called it a day. And they went home and they were like, I'm a good doctor. Yeah, that's quite a big problem, and it happens quite often in healthcare, unfortunately. This is obviously harmful for a lot of reasons. People will begin to have mistrust in their provider. They're less likely to visit the doctor if they're having a problem because they feel like they'll just show up and the doctor's like not even really going to listen to them and just tell them, oh, lose weight and that'll fix whatever problem you're saying. It can cause a lot of anxiety and even avoidance with even going to the doctor. It's pretty obvious, and it's not a secret that that stuff can lead to poor health outcomes. Somebody could be having a serious problem that could have a serious etiology, but they're avoiding going to the doctor because maybe they're obese, and they go to the doctor, and every time they've gone in the past, the doctor's just been like, oh, well, you just need to lose weight. Not even asking more questions, not running more tests. I wouldn't even want to go to the doctor in that situation, honestly. That's why I think it's important for everyone on the healthcare team to be required to administer well-rounded care. So weight bias and weight stigma are a huge issue. I feel like we can all agree on that. I can definitely agree on that. But for me, there does come a point where I stop aligning with that train of thought. And that point for me is, even after all efforts to figure out the issue have been exhausted, the professional has run all the tests they feel they need to determine the etiology of the problem. They've listened to the patient. They've asked questions. They've assessed medical history. And after all of that, it is the healthcare provider's professional medical opinion that weight loss may help resolve the issue that they are having. You decide that after all of this, that your doctor is being fat phobic and discriminating against you, and you're going to choose not to listen to them. I see that a lot in the space of like fat activism and the fat positivity and the anti-intentional weight loss and all that stuff. For example, if no one has mentioned Christy Harrison in the comments yet, I'll go ahead and get the ball rolling. Christy Harrison is a registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor in social media. She has a big following and is very active within the fat positivity, fat activism, anti-intentional weight loss like rhetoric, that space. She has a podcast called Food Psych, which I have listened to before. Before anyone recommends, I researched Christy Harrison, read her book, blah, blah, blah. I've actually done quite a bit of research about her and like her background and things like that. I have actually gone as far as having a discussion with somebody in her offices. Like I actually reached out and tried to have a discussion about like, you know, being body inclusive, but at the same time, like sticking to the facts and administering actual care that, you know, patient needs and things like that. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So I'm not sure if she still does this, but often at the start of her podcast episode, she will answer a listener question. So in episode 210, full disclosure, I did not listen to the entire episode. I listened to, I listened to a good chunk of it, but I definitely listened to enough to hear this whole question. So in episode 210, the listener question was from a person named Marie who had been recently diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. In Marie's effort to learn more about like causes and treatments for PF, the topic of weight loss / like weight body size came up a lot. And this doesn't sound like a huge deal to most of us, but Marie mentioned that she was in recovery from years of disordered eating and has gained weight in her recovery. So seeing all this information was particularly triggering for her, which I think is totally understandable. So Marie's question for Christy Harrison was, quote, do you have any advice for remaining weight neutral when dealing with the diagnosis of plantar fasciitis, end quote. And then Christy Harrison responded that she herself actually has PF. She said that all the stuff that Marie was seeing online, sorry, I'm looking down a lot. I'm trying to be specific in reading these notes because I wrote a lot of quotes down. So if I'm looking down for a lot for the next segment while I'm talking about this, I'm sorry. Christy responded by saying that she herself has PF, and she said a lot of the stuff that Marie was seeing online about PF was, quote, just more diet culture BS, end quote. Christy went on to say that, quote, it might seem like having increased weight on your feet would trigger that because it's putting more pressure on the muscle and that therefore weight loss is the answer, right? That's what diet culture frames it as. But the reality is that we don't have any safe, sustainable way for people to lose weight, period, no matter the reason, end quote. Christy Harrison went on to say that the stats from dieting are quote unquote grim, and she even cited that statistic of that, and that 95 to 98% of people will fail at weight loss. That statistic, remember, that was cited before in that comment exchange I had with that person on my YouTube video. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about the issues with that statistic. Christy Harrison goes on to continue to assert that there's no safe way to lose weight long term, and that the few people that are successful have a damaged relationship with food, etc. She says, quote, intentional weight loss feels like famine to your body, end quote, which still 2 years after making my very first video about her makes zero sense to me. I still have the same question now that I did then. If only intentional weight loss feels like famine to your body, does that mean unintentional weight loss doesn't feel like famine to your body? People unintentionally lose weight all the time from being ill, such as in the disorder called cachexia, aka wasting syndrome, which is basically weight loss brought on by illness and is generally unintentional, versus if I drink 4 cans of Coke a day usually and I cut it back to 2 cans of Coke a day in an effort to reduce my calorie intake, thereby shaving off like 300 calories from my daily intake. My body now feels like it's in a state of famine because I drink 2 Cokes a day now instead of 4. Really? I don't know. That sounds strange to me. And somebody made a comment on that video as well. They said something like, it seems a little insensitive that a healthcare professional in 2020, or whenever that video, I think it was 2020, that a healthcare professional in the modern world in the year 2020 is actually using the word famine to describe intentional weight loss. And I was like, interesting. Anyway, Christy Harrison goes on to say that PF is mainly triggered by overuse and, quote, that's something that people often do when they're caught up in diet culture and over-exercising, end quote. There it is again, over-exercising. She specifically said over-exercising. Christy says that when she was diagnosed with her plantar fasciitis, she was not prescribed weight loss, which is obviously due to her being in a smaller body. And she says that she didn't get the, quote, horrible and weight-stigmatizing treatment from doctors, end quote. And I can actually agree with that to some degree. She's probably right, honestly. I think she said in that podcast that when she was diagnosed with PF, she was in the throes of her eating disorder, so she was quite small. And that's really messed up too, because if she was in that such a small size, she was sick. And the doctor didn't look at her and say, oh, you need to lose weight, because she was already small. Maybe because the doctor assumed that she was healthy, but just because you're thin, just because you're in a small body doesn't mean you're healthy. Anyway, and then she just went on to say her own personal prescription for it was stuff like rest, rolling out the arches, no wearing high heels / unsupportive shoes, and, painkillers, Motrin. So her ultimate advice to this listener, Marie, was to find a doc that will, quote, give you that evidence-based medicine, end quote, and treatment for her PF that won't involve weight loss. Christy says, quote, if you do go to a doctor and they do try to make it about your weight, you can try setting a boundary with them and say that you'll talk about every possible treatment other than weight loss, end quote. If that doctor, quote, won't honor that boundary, find another doctor who will, end quote. Christy Harrison finally finished by saying, quote, you deserve evidence-based medicine that is not going to prescribe a supposed cure that actually does more harm than good, which weight loss does, end quote. So that's just one example where I kind of fall off the tracks with saying that weight bias and weight stigma is an issue. First of all, plantar fasciitis is a foot issue. Why are you asking a registered dietitian for advice and not a podiatrist? Second, if Marie goes to a doctor, a great, solid, well-rounded doctor that runs tests, asks questions, listens to her, takes a full look at her medical history, and then after all that, then makes a decision that weight loss might actually help her condition, she should not listen to them and find a new doctor. Now, I understand that juggling the topic of weight and weight loss, when you have a history of disordered eating or ED, that can be really dicey. But I feel like there's a better way to do it than to just tell people, nope, don't listen to them. This to me seems like a very all or nothing way of thinking. And I personally don't perceive that to be healthy in any regard because there's really no balance there. there. I just feel like we need to find a middle ground between don't listen to your doctor at all if they say you should lose weight, and doctors prescribing weight loss for every goddamn thing under the sun. We need to find a middle ground between these two things. And also, this is just an opinion that I want to add. I feel like if Marie goes to a great doctor like I just described, and they decide that maybe weight loss would help her, she should definitely let them know her history with her disordered relationship with food and disordered eating. Maybe they would refer her to an eating disorder specialist, somebody that could really like help her navigate like weight loss and managing her weight while still kind of maintaining her healthy headspace and like the progress she's made in her recovery of disordered eating. So next thing, just now I mentioned that Christy Harrison mentioned that 95 to 98% of diets fail thing. She mentioned that just now in that podcast episode, and then that person who I had that interaction with before that I read you also mentioned that. Christy Harrison actually said in that podcast, in the study that where that statistic came from, and I quote, really great science. Then she also went on to add that we can pre-order her book and read more about it in her book. So that statistic is a common one that we see among people who are just like demonizing the weight loss industry and the diet industry. I'm not going to sit here and say I've never said it before. I never have this opinion though. I'm never somebody who's going to demonize intentional weight loss. I was saying it to try and be like, that's why don't diet, like just, adjust your lifestyle. That's why I have said it in the past. I have since learned better. Yeah, this is a common statistic that people are still saying. So let's talk about it, and let's talk about where it actually came from. So that statistic actually comes from a study from 1959. 1959. Well over 60 years ago. For reference, Alpha, ma'am. What are you doing? Mommy is creating, okay? You can't be doing that. You can't be making your baby shark sounds, okay, baby? So for reference, a statistic or any scientific research really is considered up to date or recent if it's within the last 5 years. That's what I've learned in school when I had to take a class on how to do research. It was called Research Methods. I took it last summer. So 60 years is... it's a little more than 5 years. It was conducted by Dr. Albert Stunkard and registered dietitian Mavis McLaurin Hume. I hope I'm saying that right. So, age is the first issue with this stat. But the second and perhaps the biggest issue with this statistic is how the study was actually conducted. And according to Dr. Stunkard himself from a 1999 New York Times it wasn't like a study. It was actually like an article in which they interviewed him. He was interviewed in this article on his research. He actually said that the study participants were, quote, just given a diet and sent on their way, end quote. Dr. Stunkard, one of the people who conducted the study himself, said that. At the time, this study was considered to be state-of-the-art and revolutionary even. But now, over 60 years later, we have a much better means of conducting research on weight science. When you backtrack and really look at this study, it's far from effective scientific research, but still somehow, over 60 years later, that statistic of 95% of diets fail. It's one of those things that's just kind of been like, we've said it for so long, it's just kind of been accepted as fact at this point, when in reality, that study was far from founded. In that same New York Times article from 1999, where he was actually interviewed for it, oh, by the way, that article is titled, 95% Regain Lost Weight, or do they? Dr. Stunkard himself stated, quote, I've been sort of surprised that people keep citing it. I know we do better these days, end quote. Mind you, this was back in 99, over 20 years ago. So not only were we doing better in 99 than we were in 1959, we're doing way better now in 2022 than we were in 1999. FYI, you guys, I always include screenshots and site sources and things like that. But with this New York Times article, I don't know if I can, because they made me buy a freaking subscription to read the whole article. I only learned about this interview that he did because I was reading a blog post by registered dietitian Abby Langer on her website, which I will link below. It was a great article on weight science and 95% of diets failing. Blah, blah, blah. Abby actually cited Dr. Stunkard directly from this 1999 article. She linked it, and I really wanted to read the whole article and see for myself where he actually said this, but the only way I could do that was to pay for it, so I did. So because I had to buy a subscription, I don't know if I can actually show screenshots of the actual article itself because I had to pay for it. I will link it below, but I don't know. It's not gonna, unless you have an account already with New York Times, I don't think it's going to show you. It'll show you the title and maybe the first paragraph or something, but it's going to be log in or make an account to read the whole article or something like that. So yeah, just FYI, I had to pay I had to pay to play. I had to pay to see this article. So anyway, in case anyone hasn't ascertained it, I have not pre-ordered Christy Harrison's book, but I actually found this excerpt online directly from her book, and it's under the heading that's titled, quote, "The Science of Diet Failure," end quote. And I read this entire passage. I actually read it twice on 2 separate occasions because I wanted to absorb it and make sure I fully understood it before I would sit down and talk about it. And right under the heading, she immediately starts off by citing the 1959 study conducted by Dr. Stunkard and McLaurin Hume. In her book, she goes on to build on that statistic and mentions additional literature that does suggest that most people who do embark on intentional weight loss do in fact fail and usually regain back the weight they lose. Specifically, in 1992 NIH National Institute of Health panel that concluded that 90 to 95% of people regain 2/3 of the weight they lost within a year and more than half within almost 5 years after completing, quote, weight loss programs, end quote. Thus continuing to support the findings of Dr. Stunkard and McLaurin Hume in their review from 1959. Christy Harrison did cite a more recent and large-scale study that included 270,000 participants. This was back in 2015, in which the findings were, quote, right in line with Stunkard and McLaurin Hume's findings, end quote. Basically that most people regain back the weight that they lost. Babe, is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still filming.
Still filming?
Yeah. This is a long one. I'm filming 2 videos today, and my husband left when I was about halfway through filming the first one, and this is the second one. I'm surprised that he's already home. It feels like he's only been gone for an hour. He just went to the gym. Either he had a really quick workout or I'm just taking forever to film. I think it's more likely to be the latter. So as far as this passage in Christy Harrison's book, her conclusions were the same about that high failure rate. And she did cite literature to build upon that very dated statistic. But here's my question. Here's my grievance. In these studies that she cited, and in so many studies across scientific literature that assess whether or not a certain diet works in terms of weight loss, long-term weight loss, they're almost always giving people basically a crash diet. It's very low carb, very low fat, or very low calorie, something like that. They're using crash diets, and then they're concluding that, oh, well, look at that. It worked at first, and then people regain the weight. Oh, so diets don't work at all. Case closed. Which is fucking duh. Most people are going to lose weight when you put them on an extremely calorie-restricted diet. And then when they go back to eating how they ate before, they what? Regain the weight that they lost. Stop giving people crash diets and start educating them on safe and sustainable weight loss practices. No one is going to succeed in a crash diet. And even in Abby Langer's article that I just mentioned, she even said pretty much the same thing. In a lot of the studies that assess the efficacy of certain diets, they're giving people a freaking crash diet. When you give someone a restrictive diet, of course it's not surprising that they don't stick to it and they regain the weight that they lost. So, okay, before we move on, I want to say, every time the topic of weight science comes up, someone always, without fail, tells me that I need to read Christy Harrison's book, Anti-Diet. I think a lot of people think that if I read her book, it will magically change my mind and I'll just abandon my career aspirations to become a bariatric dietitian. I am open to reading it. Obviously, I have a bias. I don't want to say I'm necessarily pro-intentional weight loss. I'm just not anti-intentional weight loss, and I do think there's a right and wrong way to go about it. So you could say I do have a bias, but if I were to sit down and read it, I will do my best to keep an open mind. When I was reading that passage the couple times I did, I kept an open mind. But I'm open to having my mind change. My mind has been changed over the last couple of years as I've grown on YouTube and grown as a creator in this space of health science and things like that. For example, I'm more open-minded to intuitive eating now than I was 2 years ago. But I really don't see a drastic shift in my method of thinking to where I start saying that, oh, well, people's weight is all their genetics and diet and exercise has nothing to do with it at all. Nothing to do with body size or health. There's too much evidence that opposes her rhetoric and that opposes her ideal. And honestly, you guys, I feel that I have actually given Christy Harrison an ample chance. I mentioned before that I've actually reached out to her office and I had a conversation with somebody there. I did that because I want to understand, why do you think the way you think? But also for me, I don't know if at this time I was as interested in bariatric care as I am now. I do feel that it's important to definitely practice I guess, body inclusivity, no matter what kind of healthcare practitioner you are. So I reached out basically asking the question, how does one navigate being weight inclusive, but also upholding scientific research and their duty as a healthcare professional to provide evidence-based care? Do keep in mind, I was not speaking directly to Christy Harrison herself, at least I don't think I was, but it was someone in her office whose name I will not reveal, but I still have the emails. And they basically just said that everything that I've learned about weight science is wrong. And they also said, quote, a person's eating habits are only a very small fraction of what contributes to their overall health and body size, end quote. This statement is surprising when you consider that Christy Harrison is a nutrition professional. Granted, it's not her saying it, it's this person I was talking to. But if this person who works alongside Christy Harrison is saying this, I have to imagine that Christy herself also believes this to an extent. So I am making that assumption. But it's baffling to me that a healthcare professional can believe that. A lot of chronic disease, such as heart disease, the #1 killer in the United States, is lifestyle related. For example, diet, tobacco use, and physical inactivity. I feel like to say that a person's eating habits are, quote, a very small fraction, end quote, of what contributes to their overall health is a blanket statement and really can't be said for every single human. And B, I think in a small way, or maybe in a big way, depending on how you want to spin it, I think it absolves people from pretty much all personal responsibility. And C, it also doesn't consider each individual human's genetics and environment, because that stuff also does play a role. There are a lot of factors that influence the development of obesity or morbid obesity. So that brings me to the next thing I want to bring up, and that is the discussion of how genetics influences body size and body weight, because it certainly does and can. But how much varies widely from person to person. Because this person who works in Christy Harrison's offices, and the commenter on that my autumn video said that diet has very little effect on body size and overall health. That commentator said, quote, it's mostly genetics. We all have different genes though. So how can you just say that as a blanket statement? In fact, some research actually indicates that genetic influence can be as little as 25% or as much as 70 to 80% from person to person. The child of two athletes is far less likely to develop obesity than the child of two obese individuals. Someone who has been overweight their entire life and has a very difficult time losing body fat likely has a genetic predisposition that makes weight loss hard. And then there's also hormonal factors as well. If you're somebody who has dysfunction with your thyroid, as in hypothyroidism, losing weight is probably really tough for you. And then on the flip side, if you have hyperthyroidism, then keeping weight on your body is probably really tough for you as well. And then you have genetic conditions such as Prader-Willi syndrome can actually cause obesity, because in individuals with Prader-Willi, because of hormonal imbalances, they tend to have an almost insatiable appetite, causing them to just eat and eat and eat, thus increasing their weight. Everyone's genes are so drastically different. So to say, oh, well, it's mostly genetics for everyone is just, I find that to be extremely ignorant. I think it completely ignores people's individual situations, and also it ignores their external environment as well. Okay, the last thing I want to address that came up a couple of times, you guys all saw it and heard it. I should change my career path because becoming a bariatric registered dietitian will just contribute to weight stigma and fat phobia and weight bias. With respect, no. I already mentioned before why I'm interested in this area of medicine. It's very near and dear to my heart. I got sick of seeing my friends and family who have struggled with their weight, and then thousands and thousands of people in general being taken advantage of by the diet industry, falling prey to crash diet after crash diet that will fail because they will regain the weight that they lose. They'll feel that it's their fault for being weak or lacking willpower. They fall into this phase of just hating themselves, hating their body, coming down on themselves because it's me, why am I the problem? I can't do anything right. When it's not the problem, it's the diet that's the problem. And then the cycle ultimately repeats itself when whatever supplement company or MLM comes out with the next product that's supposed to be revolutionary with weight loss and help solve all your problems, and this is the product that'll help you lose weight. This cycle causes people so many more health problems beyond physical. It hurts their self-esteem, it hurts their body image, it hurts their relationship with food, but you know what? The diet industry does not care. They capitalize off of that so that they can sell to those very same people who are victims of the diet industry the next best product, knowing good and damn well that this amazing product, this amazing method will not sustain them, it will not last, and they will relapse, gain all the weight back, feel bad about themselves, and then the cycle just repeats itself. It disgusts and infuriates me. I want to become a nutrition professional and work in this space because I want to be the voice of reason and a voice of hope for victims of the diet industry. It's not your fault. The diets you've been doing for years, they are the problem, not you. So how about this time when we try weight loss again? How about we don't do a crash diet? How about we find a form of physical activity that's not physically exhausting and grueling and makes you throw up every time? How about we find something that you like and something that you'll enjoy and something that you'll look forward to doing every day or however often you want to do it? How about we incorporate more vegetables into your diet because it's good for you? How about we also talk about that you can still enjoy ice cream and cookies and pizza and even the occasional fast food? How about we stop doing the all or nothing mentality? It causes more harm than good. As far as the people who are in this space, who have this rhetoric of all intentional weight loss is bad, nobody should do it, don't even try it because you're probably going to fail. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean people are going to stop doing it, okay? Stop trying to tell people what to do with their bodies because of how it will make you feel. The fact is, people are going to do it whether you like it or not. So it really doesn't matter if you don't like it. People are still gonna do it. The way I figure it, you have two options. You can A, keep telling people not to do it because it's bad, it's dangerous, they shouldn't try because they're going to fail, and it's 100% bad all the time. It will always have a bad outcome no matter what, so you should just not even bother trying it. Or B, you can be supportive, provide evidence-based information, and help them make the best informed decision for their health. Because guess what? If you choose option A, people are probably still going to try it. But since you're not helping them by showing them support and sharing evidence-based information with them on how to do it correctly and safely and sustainably, they're probably going to turn to an extreme and dangerous method. Enter detox teas and the 21-day fix and the 4-week gut protocol and weird crash diets, all the ones we see on social media. All that crap that doesn't work and is going to ultimately do more harm than good. You can be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. And in my opinion, just telling people you'll probably fail, so don't even try, is being part of the problem because it's discouraging. And also, spreading misinformation to support this rhetoric is a big part of the problem. And that's my opinion on the subject. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. In conclusion, I already concluded. I'm actually losing my voice because this has been, oh my God, I've been filming for an hour and a half. Just this video alone, an hour and a half. I got pretty emotional when I was working on this script a little bit, as you could probably tell just now while I was actually filming. This subject is very fascinating to me. It's thought-provoking, it's triggering, but it's also important. I can only imagine what the comment section is going to look like for this one. I welcome it. I really don't delete comments. I mean, I delete, the only comments I really delete are spam, gross stuff, harassment, and if people say something that is overtly inappropriate. So I truly welcome all the comments on this video. It's going to be an interesting comment section. You all fight nice in the comment section. Don't fight at all. But play nice in the comments section. If you made it to this point of the video, comment 95%. Thank you so very much for watching. I really appreciate you sticking through to the end of this one. This is going to be a long one. I already know it. Like if you enjoyed it, or dislike if you didn't enjoy it. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed it and want to see more of me. Thank you again so much for watching. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Okay, so the camera is about to overheat. So let's see if we can get some puppies. Oh, I found one. I found a dog. Hey, Onyx. Hey. Hey, you want to say hi? Oh, and there's a boy. Oh, there's the babies. Okay, you guys, the camera's about to overheat. Who wants to say bye? Yes. Yes, ma'am. Hey. Hey. Hey, guys. They're all excited because Ace just got home. Somebody say bye. Somebody say bye. Onyx, stop it. You're gonna give him an ear infection. Sit down. Who's your baby brother, Onyx? No, him. He's your baby brother. Onyx, who's your baby brother? Yeah, good boy. Good boy. Oh, he hates you, Zeus. Yes, Alpha is here too, everyone.